We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with roll call. Morgan Brown.
Here.
Dave Walbrenner.
Here.
Becky Engel. Here. Brian Jones.
Here.
Dusty Ware.
Here.
Jan Wietrich is absent tonight, and Christina Shark is here. Next up is adoption of agenda and declaration of a quorum.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Next up is citizen speak. I do not have any green cards. Is there anyone present that would like to address the board tonight? If not, we will move on to employee recognition with Kate.
Thanks, Christina. Kate's going to join us and introduce our first-time Employee of the Month for the start of the school year, and we're really excited to recognize these individuals and show our appreciation for everything they do for our school district.
As a reminder, our Employee of the Month recipients are selected from nominations submitted through an online form. Each month, our committee chooses up to 5 recipients to include those who meet the criteria of continuously demonstrating going above and beyond for our students, staff, and parents. We welcome you to submit your nomination through our form titled Employee Nomination Form, found under the quick links on our website at ottumwaschools.com. First up, we have Rosalie Utterbach. Miss Rosalie is a special education associate at Wilson Elementary School and has been employed by the district for 2 years. She was nominated by a colleague. Rosalie goes above and beyond to help her one-on-one student, in addition to those around her, be successful in all areas of education. She's my right hand when I am busy helping others. Rosalie shows up every day for her shift and works without complaint, enduring whatever comes her way. She stays calm in adversity and always has a smile and a hug to give. And if you're really lucky, she may even share her baking treats with you. I'm grateful for the kindness, calmness, and helpfulness that Rosalie shares with all those around her. Congratulations. Next, we have Erica Mull. Erica is a special education teacher at Pickwick Early Childhood Center and has been employed by the district for 10 years. She was nominated by a few of her colleagues. Mrs. Mull is an amazing special education teacher who consistently goes above and beyond for her students and her associates. She makes me feel at home, ensuring I am welcomed, supported, and set up for success. Erica shares resources freely and makes sure that associates feel confident in their roles. Without her leadership, many of us would feel lost. She works tirelessly to serve students with special needs, approaching challenges and with an open mind and willingness to rethink support strategies. Erica designed a classroom environment that truly responds to her students' unique needs while also fostering collaboration among teachers, associates, and families. Her vision, encouragement, and commitment make her a leader and a teacher who truly deserves this recognition. Congratulations. Next, we have Cody Craycraft. Officer Craycraft is a school resource officer, or SRO, at Evans Junior High School. He has been with the Ottumwa Police Department for 7 years and has worked in our schools for 1 year. A parent nominated him. When my daughter was involved in a scary incident, I was directed to Officer Cody. From the start, he was calm, professional, and easy to communicate with. He investigated thoroughly, answered our questions clearly, and made us feel safe throughout the process. He went above and beyond by following up to check in on my daughter's well-being. His calm, caring presence, especially with children, sets him apart as an exceptional officer. Ottumwa Schools and our community are fortunate to have Officer Cody supporting our students and families. Congratulations. Next, we have Isaac Bennett. Mr. Bennett is an associate at Farney Elementary School and has been employed by the district for 2 years. He was nominated by a parent. Isaac has done a fabulous job as an associate over the past couple of years and has been a tremendous asset to Farney. He is hardworking, dedicated, and has a clear passion for working with kids. You can see it not only in the way he interacts with students, but also how much the kids love and respect him in return. Isaac consistently goes above and beyond, whether it's helping at pickup with a smile on his face or supporting students throughout the day. He truly embodies the Ottumwa School's motto, "Be the best." The district is fortunate to have him. Congratulations. And next we have Amanda Argueta. Miss Amanda is a teacher at our Structured Academic and Learning Therapeutic Center, referred to as SALT, which houses students kindergarten through 7th grade at Evans Junior High. Amanda has been employed by the district for 2 years. She was nominated by a colleague. I nominated Amanda because she is such a compassionate, hardworking teacher. She has gone above and beyond to prepare her classroom and welcome students to the SALT program this year. Even with the challenges, she puts in many hours outside the school day to ensure her students feel supported at home and at school. Amanda models character and grace for her students and sets a positive example for her colleagues as well. She truly embodies our district's Be the Best and is a tremendous asset to the SALT program. Congratulations.
Up next is the consent agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, next, board priority, we will promote and monitor growth in student achievement, and all students will be challenged with high expectations that will meet or exceed measurable targets. We have one informational topic here, a Ottumwa annual school update.
Hello. We are excited to share some of the celebrations that we've got going on at Ottumwa, and to look at some of the areas of growth that we're looking at as we look at our data from last year and how we continue to serve the Ottumwa students. So one of our successes, obviously, Dr. Lance talked in August about our decrease in our student or behavior data. And last year we implemented a regulation room to meet students' needs to where if they're starting to dysregulate, we have that option. We have a couple associates assigned and they just are able to go in and, we set a timer for 5 minutes and really try and get them to take a 5-minute break, and then the work that they left in the classroom, then we'll follow them back to the classroom, and that's kind of their ticket out. So definitely wanted to highlight that as a strength in the building. And then,
Sorry. Kim Hudson. So what you're seeing here is our literacy data from 2024-25, and it's an area of focus for us, a strong area. We definitely need to increase our proficiency scores in our school. You can see the data has kind of stayed around stagnant. So one of our goals is to have 65% of our students proficient at or above in the district reading assessments. That's kind of our goal. In order to do that, we've started a really great thing. This year we started our win time already. It started today. It was a beautiful thing to see all of the kids moving around. It was school-wide. So the beginning of this was pretty neat. We screened every student in our school that in either the Haggerty or the letters, phonics and word reading survey. And so we knew exactly what skills they have and what exactly skills they needed. Then we built a data wall based on that. Our BLT met, we focused an area, We have a lot of students in phonemic awareness we're working through, so we started to target that area. And we know that phonemic awareness only needs like 8 hours of instruction really to be able to, knock it out. So we're hoping to move them quickly. But the beautiful thing about it is that all the teachers are working together. We trained on the U-Fly intervention. We have a rotation cycle. There are 6 cycles in place, and everybody knows that it's a 5-week on, 1-week testing, and then the 6th week will be our assessment, and then the Friday always ends on a building PD day. So we're going to do data wall sorting on that day. So we're working as a team and making decisions as a team to move our students forward.
So because we are committed to increasing our student achievement and literacy to be at percentage or above benchmark, we want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on those kids who are already at benchmark and maintaining that performance over time. So the goal is 95%. We're currently sitting at 89%. And an area of focus for us is continuing to get that aggressive growth in literacy from our students. So we are currently at 20% when the district goal is 65%. Our building has set a goal of 80% of our students showing aggressive growth on our district reading assessments for the year.
Some of the challenges as we reviewed our BOQ, or buildings of quality, we really noticed that some of our behavior still was areas of growth or areas to work through. So monthly we will assess teachers and figure out areas that they feel like we need to reteach and retrain. And so we'll do that through a Tier 1 survey. We'll also do a staff concern form that will come to me, and I will review that and then take that to our building leadership team. Our Tier 1 challenges also, once again, through that instructional focus, we're going to ensure that teaching of consistent language. So we, at the beginning of the year during our PD, we did a instructional piece around our consistent language for all staff and students. And then if we see an area where we do need to reteach, we're able to reteach each individual on their own. We have a Google Classroom set up as a training site. So if a staff member, or if we onboard new staff members, we'll be able to send those to those Google Classrooms and get that training individually if we have identified that. Another success, I don't know, I'm sure you have heard, we shook the building up a little bit a few years ago when second grade did come into the building. It was more segregated, a first grade and second grade. So this last year, we interspersed first and second grade, and I feel like that's gone better. We're trying to look in the future to see whether or not we can keep some of those kids in that same pod with those teachers that they've already created relationships with. But one of the big focuses of the year is a we over me attitude, just embracing that school culture and climate that is fostering good academics for students. Some of our celebrations, this is students engaged and working in the first 20-some days of school, so things are going well, and we've started out really well this year. So, any questions?
I'm so glad you shared all that data with us and realized where you need to grow. So for your win time, Kim, what interventions are you using, and do you feel like teachers can pull from their toolbox to use what they know works with students?
So, you know that I'm new in my position, and the first thing I need to do, you also know I'm a rule follower, so I had to know all the intervention lists that were required or allowed in our district, and I started there. when I realized that there were, the Haggerty is an assessment tool that we can use, and we can survey them in letters. Once you take that information, you can then kind of plug it into the intervention list. And so I knew when we started before we even had students in the building, that my teachers need to have fidelity amongst the program that I chose that they were going to use for when. So we're doing Haggerty for the phonemic awareness part. And then for when we're getting into that actual word reading, we're doing the U-Fly. And so I did a fidelity training along the U-Fly with them. U-Fly, okay. It's the University of Florida Institute for Reading. So basically, they have a whole wonderful science of reading-based program, and it's little prep, but it's high impact with the students. But you have to know the importance of each step inside the manual and how to do each step. If you don't know that, then you might just run through it and not realize like articulation of a sound is important and how they might be making errors because of the way they're forming their mouth. So we kind of went through and talked through that training, and that took us about an hour and a half. Well, maybe it was 2 hours. But they were all okay. They were still awake at the end. And so that's kind of how we honed it in. And so far, it's been going pretty well.
And then another thing, for those that are reading, your second graders or first graders, are they getting into text? Are they reading whole books instead of just excerpts?
Yeah, so we have a resource, Varsity Tutors, and we're looking into how we meet those advancements. And so right now, we've got it set up to where we generate an AI passage, and then it comes with text that is generated, but then they will eventually get into books. Yep.
Can I add something to that? So one of the things we noticed when we saw our data was that the continuum is all the way back to phonemic awareness. Mm-hmm. And because it's there, our building, we have very few people here, but we have a lot of holes in that we need to fill in order to get that automaticity for that reading and that fluency part. So we really felt we needed to kind of hone in. So it's going to be in stages within our building for the when. We're working on those earliest skills right now to really intervene and get them up. And then as we pull them up, we can start extending that next part where the oral reading fluency. But the classroom teachers are doing that work inside their classrooms. The other thing I'll tell you is there's a resource from ReadWorks. Remember ReadWorks? And they actually have a decodable passage section with U-Fly. And so I'm going to be talking to the teachers tomorrow about that's an idea where we can assign those kinds of things and work and have small groups inside the classroom with something they're familiar with being trained on. So that is the goal, yeah.
I know, I'm not picking on you, Kim, but I just...
Yeah, you are.
I'm just very worried about our district's early reading, the fluency, and how much we rely on using the computer. And I just want to see kids have text in their hands, and I want to see teachers intervening instead of being on a program, to learn those things. And I've noticed with some of the CKLA, the kids going into first grade, they want to sound out they did exactly what CKLA taught them in kindergarten, but they're not reading. They're just every word.
I agree with you.
And that needs to change quickly, I believe. I'm sorry.
We see that same thing, but one of the beautiful things that you might be excited about is that with the U-Fly intervention, you finish with a text, a decodable text, and you are working through that with the students. And it's 8 steps. It's basically like the general phonics lesson plan from letters. And they really do set up their entire lesson plan based on that. And the very last part is there's writing. So there's that encoding, and there's that decoding piece in there too. So it's a really strong way of formulating through the lesson and getting them into reading text with support at where they're at right now. But I completely agree with you.
Can I come observe sometime?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love that.
I'll set that up with you.
Oh, I shouldn't have
Thank
said
you
that.
so much.
This is his building.
Anything else?
That's why I'm here.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, next up, board priority, to be the best, we will create a positive learning and working culture for our stakeholders and embrace our community partners through communication and transparency. We have a couple of action items here. The first one is the associate tier pay MOU.
Hi, so this one, we talked with the board a couple meetings ago about some of the initiatives we were taking with the associate group, and this is kind of the formalization of that, some of the increased rates of pay. So so just kind of quick recap, we went through and did several things. One of them included breaking the associate postings into separate categories based on the unique roles that they have. So the MOU kind of memorializes that. And then we also attached some additional wages to some of them. The health associate would get an extra 50 cents an hour. Special ed associate in tier 2 positions would be $1 an hour extra. And those are like our special programs or some high needs special education postings. And then the other ones that were already in existence, the preschool associates and the safety and security associates already get an extra $1 an hour. And then we had a first question come up with this, can they stack? So if you have a preschool associate who works in a tier 2 special education, they would stack. So if you get a 3 or 4-year-old student that's got really high needs in a special education, that would increase it even further. So this is just the formal approval. This is what was worked out with the associate union. They've signed off on it, and we're just presenting it to the board for approval.
Hey, John, I think also that it's level 2 and level 3 special ed associates, right? That get the
We
dollar.
call it tier 2, but
Yeah.
it would deal with those higher needs, which would be level
Right.
3 students, correct?
And we're going to make it retroactive to the
Yes.
beginning of the year as well. Okay.
And I remember when you presented on this, so forgive me for the question, but is this the way these associate jobs will be posted moving forward too? So if I want to be a special ed tier 2 associate, it'll be posted that way and I can apply for that.
Correct, yeah, and we're hoping that by having a lot more transparency and description on the front side for the postings, we, can then tailor the interviews for those folks, and there's not as big of a hurdle knowing what they're getting into as before, it was just like general associate, but there were so many different classifications under that umbrella.
So the ones that don't have anything don't get anything, is that correct, as far as a raise, or as far as extra?
If it's not denoted on that list, on the MOU, correct, that'd be the standard hourly rate. Yep.
So I guess my opinion on this is, obviously I'm in favor of it, but I'm always gonna think we need to probably look towards, especially if we go back and look at, and I know when we look in the whole realm of things, I don't know the number of associates we probably have. I'm assuming a couple hundred at least, probably.
Correct.
But we still have several positions listed. I think along the special ed associate lines, I think, for different ones. I don't know if it's C or whatever it is. I just think that we need to do whatever we need to do to get those people in here. If it's more, it's more, but I don't know that if what we're doing is going to be enough. That's just my opinion. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think we rely on those associates a lot. I think teachers, they're very helpful to teachers, and I think, when you get the good ones, and we need to recognize them and make sure that we're doing whatever we can to retain them. I know in the whole money scheme of things, it's kind of hard to say, well, you get this and you get that, but I don't know. I just think that maybe, my opinion would be, I think that some of this might be probably a little bit low, but if it works, it works. If we get the people and get the positions filled, I'm okay with it, but if not, I think we just need to keep looking at going up, because I think when you look at things, a lot of people do it because they want to do it, but also I think when you look at it, money becomes a number one factor.
Yeah. And we had a committee that started even in early summer that really looked at these things, and we'll continue to meet with those folks and the union throughout the school year and our labor management to discuss those concerns. But a lot of the concerns you're bringing up are things that really was what we wanted to form this committee for. And then we also have a couple of HR folks that are going to really study the associate pool culture to make sure that if we're missing something with how they're feeling valued, or if there are other concerns with our turnover rate. But right now we're monitoring our associate associate number weekly. We look at IEP data to constantly monitor where are we at in services to our students. And actually, we started the school year with more associates than we ended the school year with last year. So it always feels like we're a little bit tight and maybe short. A lot of that has to do with attendance rates too, so we keep a close eye on that and monitor that as well. But you're right, we watch that closely, and if we feel like there's a need or if we need to shuffle folks, we do that as well. And we have a good partnership with our associate union and open lines of communication. We want to see that continue in service of our students.
And I'm only saying because when I went back and looked like postings, there's 10 or 12 postings posted. And like I said, in the whole scheme of things with how many we got, I know that's a small number, but if we need that many, it's still very important.
Yeah.
And I know you guys know that, but we have that many people or that many kids that need those
Yeah.
associates with them.
Yep. And we have interviews happening weekly as well. So when we have good applicants come our way, again, when we're monitoring our minutes and we know that we're short different places, we're constantly hiring and onboarding to fill the need. But also, again, like I said, internally moving folks as needed too. If we get heavy in one building, we monitor that also.
And the only thing I'll add is when you talk about the money part of it is it's a challenge for a position like this since it's a 9-month posting, and then we spread it out over the school year. So sometimes the money, it's 17 or 17.22. Even some of these that could be $18, $19 an hour. Once you try to take 9 months and pay it out over 12, the checks they get a little smaller, which is one of the things we're trying to resolve with the schedulees, where we offer full-time positions, so there's greater hours, and those checks would be larger, and it also gets an allowance for health insurance, and that would continue over summer too. So that adds, $10,000 to a position, and we're really trying to focus on filling those too, because they're a much more desirable position when you look at that annual pay. And we've got all those posted. It's just a difficult job to fill, and Brad mentioned the weekly interviews. We had one week where I think we had 7 or 8 candidates and 2 showed up. So we go through all that work and we get them there, and then we just get that kind of turnout. So there's challenges, but no, they're always open, and they are constantly interviewing, and we've had quite a few. But the Schedule E one is we're doing that, pushing that internally, and then we're also pushing it externally because, like we've said, we've had a little trouble filling it internally. So we're putting it out there, and it looks like a higher wage and a little more annual earnings for it. So we're hoping that we get some good external candidates also.
And is that part of it optional, John, where do you have to take it and spread it out over the 12 months, or could they get it?
Yeah. It's a good question. We had a couple of people inquire about that a couple of years ago, so we polled and we asked everybody, and we got a really good response from the associate group. Hey, would you rather have over, just 10 months or over 12 months? And we only had 2 people say that they wanted just over 10. They all like receiving those checks over the summertime. We just didn't get anybody that said, yes, I want that. Because yes, the checks are larger during the 10 months, but then 2 months you don't get anything.
Right.
And that was just something that we thought we'd get better response on, but it wasn't.
Is one or the other, correct?
Right, yep.
Okay.
So associates are really the unsung heroes of our school district. I don't know that they get the respect and what's the other word I'm looking for, but
Just appreciation, I think.
Exactly,
Yep, and that's
exact-
one of the things that Mike tasked us with in that committee is to make sure that we keep a pulse on that throughout the school year. So Mackenzie in our HR department, Mackenzie Baum is leading the initiative to make sure that we are attending to that throughout the year. We started with a survey at the beginning of the year. They were analyzing that survey today, and we're going to respond to that survey and make sure that they know how much we appreciate them and want,
yeah.
if they're feeling like things aren't going well, we're going to do something about it.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'll echo some of that. I agree with a lot of that. I've got a pretty strong appreciation of aides. I do have, to go back to a meeting we had like 3 months ago when you guys presented all that data on absenteeism and turnover and things like that. And I had asked about, if you guys have like data on the demographics of the turnover, are we seeing higher turnover in, 20 to 25 or 30, whatever that may be. But I see these different tiers of associates. I mean, there's a number of them here. I mean, is there also a way to, compound that data with the turnover within each tier? If there's a tier or 2 that we're seeing much more turnover in, maybe that's a tier that we need to give a little extra attention to. If we're not seeing a lot of turnover in special ed tier 1 or tier 2, but we're seeing a ton of turnover in just general, you know, I mean, that data is gonna tell us a lot, but
Yeah.
we need to provide it, I guess. And John, you made the comment about the 12-month, you know, they get paid throughout the year, which is awesome. But with our high turnover, to me, that's only a benefit if they make it long enough to see it. So on the front end, when we're hiring and going over the job, are we really hammering that to the aides that, you know, some of these people are young, and I mean, you almost got to draw it out for them. But, you know, it says you make 16 an hour, but, you know, your first paycheck, when you do the math, you're going to make 12. But these 2 months, you're still going to get 12, but you're not going to work. You know, if they're not working, staying on board long enough to see that benefit of getting paid and not working, you know, that doesn't help.
We actually wrote it up, so we've got a one-pager that we talk about annualized pay, and then we also give some examples, so we kind of spell it out. We give that to all the new hires.
Yeah.
It is something that gets forgot, you know, in the shuffle of paperwork. I think some
Yeah.
of them end up forgetting
Yeah.
about it. And the note you made about which tiers we have the turnover, it's interesting for us. I would say probably 80 to 90% of our associates are special education. That's the main reason we have them. So the tier 1 and 2 are new this year, so we'll be able to do a little more data collection as to what those second tier are. But that's new this year. Before we just had special ed, and it's probably easily 8 out of 10, probably 9 out of 10 that are those positions. So that's the bulk of where we see our need. So you know, we are splitting it out a little bit this year, but we haven't seen much yet. So this is definitely a data collection year to see if we still see that same level of turnover in those tier 2 positions, or if it's higher because they're more challenging positions. So
And we've really worked to boost and improve our onboarding processes, just like you described, making sure, again, with the descriptions, but then beyond that, knowing what level of support that they have. And we've implemented mentoring for our associates as well, so that if they have questions, they know who to go to in their building. We've given additional stipends to those mentors throughout the district. Again, just to make sure they know what level of support they have and that we're here to support them. We know our district would not operate without them. They are the glue that kind of holds us all together, and we know that. So we're really committed to making sure they know how much we appreciate them and are going to study the turnover really closely and take some steps to help improve that.
Thank you.
This has been kind of an ongoing discussion, so I appreciate the district continuing to relook at this. It's an issue that's never really arrived. So any other questions? If not, we'll be looking for a motion to approve the tiered pay for associates.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you, Brad. Up next is the fiscal year 2025 financial reports.
okay, so everybody should have a couple of reports attached, and I'm not doing a line by line on any of them, but I kind of give an explanation so you know what reports there are there. The first one. It's called the Treasurer Report, and all that lays out is it shows each of our funds. So we've got our general fund, activity, management, all the funds that the school uses. It'll show you what our beginning balance was at the end of the year. It summarizes and rolls up our total revenues and then our total expenses for each fund, and then what the fund balance is for each one of those. And there's not a ton of change year over year, other than a couple of them. The general fund, we had a surplus of about 1.1 million, and this was expected because, as we said, we've kind of drawn down as we came out of COVID and ESSER, and we draw down those funds, and now we want to maintain a solvency level in that target. IASB recommends between 7 and 17, and we're right about in the middle of that at 12, and so that's kind of where we're holding. And then the other one is the SAVE, or the Capital Projects Fund. We had that balance go up from 6.1 million to 9.2. Last year, we did a bond issuance. We received those funds, and those are what's being used to do most of the high school projects. So those are coming down, but we still have a balance of those as we finish up those projects. Okay. The next report would be the balance sheet by fund, and this one's a little longer, but it lays out the same thing where it shows each one of the funds, and it gives you the same data basically where the fund ends. So you've got the fund balance you can trace between the two, but it gives you details on what makes up that balance. So the assets and liabilities for each fund and kind of what our fund equity is. So it's just a little more detail that shows, in our general fund, we count some liabilities for our prepaid expenses. The biggest one that I pay attention to is we prepay curriculum. So we buy a software subscription for 5 years. We book 1 year of it as an expense and 4 years of it as an asset because we're going to use it over the years. So things like that. And this report gives a little more of those kind of details. The next one would be our special education supplement. So out of all the funding streams we get, special education gets its own special report where we have to summarize all those expenses. The district runs a deficit almost every district in the state, probably close to 80% or more run a deficit, and it's just to highlight that the weighting system that the state provides for special education students has not kept up with the needs. But that being said, last year we had a special ed deficit of about 1.6 million. This year we are at about 512,000. So we saw our deficit shrink. And I try not to bring too much attention to it because that will vary from year to year. The weightings of students, our student count will vary. Last year we received about 500,000 more in state aid because we had more special education students. And we also had several students that moved from a lower tier of 1 or 2 up to 3. So we get more money for those students. The other thing that we will take credit for is that our Medicaid reimbursements went up. So we rely on Medicaid reimbursements for services provided to special education students to provide additional revenue above and beyond what the state does. And we always aim for about $1 million. We came in just a little under that at 912,000, but that was 400,000 more than we'd received in the prior year. So we came out of COVID. There were a lot of rules that made it easier to get those Medicaid reimbursements. Those rules went away, so it became harder, and then we kind of adjusted, and we've been putting a lot of work into trying to pump those numbers up because it's just revenue for the school, and anything we can get to support the special education program is warranted. And then on the expense side, we pretty much ran very consistent. The one area we saw is that we have to pay other districts when our special education students go to those districts, and we pay them their actual costs. And we saw those expenses go down about $300,000. So either some of the schools did not spend as much, maybe didn't apply as many one-on-one associates, or we did have less students open and rolled out, less special education students open and rolled out. So that saves us a little bit of money. So those 3 factors kind of contribute to that deficit swinging from 1.6 to 500,000.
Hey, John.
Yes.
To give the board some sense of the range of deficit across,
Yeah, and this is, I don't have this data, but we do a little collection in the UEN, so the top 20 or so schools in the state, and asked what their deficits were, and they were staggering. We had several districts, Des Moines Public Schools runs a $27 million special education deficit, so that means all the special ed money they get from the state, they spend all of that, and then $27 million more. I think we had some Waterloos and some Cedar Rapids that are $8 to $10 million. Mason City, which is about 1,000 less students than us, they ran just under $5 million. So there's some huge numbers, and out of that list, only one school had a smaller deficit than us. I think it was Burlington, and they have traditionally, they've run surpluses. So they've kind of swung it around. They have a pretty high special education student population, surprisingly for the size. So yeah, you'll see deficits in the schools our size that are between $4 and $8 million, and it's crazy. And we've never reached that level, so I think I give Mike Steamsma credit. He does a really good job allocating those resources, but in the end, it still generates a deficit because we just don't get enough through that state aid formula. Okay. And the last report would be the transportation report, and this one we just give a summary that kind of goes over our total spend for student transportation. And this one, we didn't see any real big savings in the numbers, but one thing to point out is when we did our RFP for transportation services last year, the rate per route, so that's how that we get charged is per route, went up 18.5%. So if we would have just continued as usual, we would have seen an 18.5% increase to our transportation cost, which would have been a couple $100,000. We came in almost flat, and we actually saved about $50,000 transportation year over year. So we absorbed an 18.5% increase in the rates through some of the efficiencies we found last year. So another thing we're noticing is we have several schools that are going out for transportation quotes. They're doing their RFPs. And there are some very big increases. The transportation costs, whether through staffing or the fixed equipment costs, the busing, and the wages they're having to pay is way up. And so we're kind of thankful that we have a couple more years, this year, would be our last, yeah.
one more
So we
after
have one more after this year, before we have to go back, but we're not expecting it to be something where we go out and we get better quotes just because the costs continue to rise. But we're locked in pretty good and fairly stable, even with that rate increase we saw, so. So those are kind of the four reports that kind of sum up some of the annuals. I would welcome anybody to look into these. If you have questions, please let me know. I don't expect you to digest everything right now, but always like to present it and just kind of give an overview of some of the things we're looking at and yeah, be welcome to, or happy to answer any questions. For this, when the action board does take action, when you make the motion, there would be two things, kind of to accept the report, but we're also requesting spending authority for our special ed deficit. So we just make that note, or that is one thing we're doing with the action, is that $500,000, we ask the state to grant us the authority to spend the money we already spent.
With that tee up, does anybody want to make a motion? Thank you, John.
Make a motion to approve the financial reports and the spending authority for the deficit in special ed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Next up is the Albia Boys and Girls Bowling Sharing Agreement.
Yeah, I'll give the board a little background on this and kind of how we normally try to be good neighbors. And when we get asked if we're interested in a sharing agreement, if we can do it, we try to do it. And the first thing we ask is we always ask the head coaches if they're okay with it. And both head coaches were very okay with this. So I'm recommending to the board to approve this.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Next up is board policy updates, second and final reading.
There's no questions. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Okay, next, board priority. Through the board's financial stewardship, we will provide operations, technical, and curricular resources to staff, teachers, and administrators so that all students have consistent and sustained achievement. We have one action item here, the Farney Elementary final completion and acceptance.
And this, you may be wondering, going, hey, we've been in that building for a year, why are we doing this now? But on any of the construction projects, they withhold some retainage. And I was actually surprised that we hadn't finished this either. So I got the final pay app from Bi-State. They've gone through and they had a couple issues they were still working on, a couple little warranty things, and those are done. So we like on the larger projects to just have the board do a final acceptance, and this kind of starts the timer on the warranty for several systems in the building as well. Just a quick overview just of the program. We started this, it's crazy to think we did a feasibility study in February of 2022. So over 3 years ago is kind of when it got started. We approved the design in November of 2022. And then we moved forward and had that design and got it ready for going out for bid in January of 2023. And the estimate of probable cost of the project at that time was $19.5 million. So that's where we're at when we went for bid. We went out for bid and we had those. The board approved them in February of 2023, and the bids actually came in at just a hair under $16.8 million. So we had a bid come in lower than expected, and at that point we needed one of those because we'd been on a run with everything else, just crazy during those COVID times or post-COVID times. The project finished up, and the final cost of it is actually just a hair over $16.4 million. So we actually came in under what the project was budgeted for. That was a result. We always build in a little bit of contingency, and this project needed very little. It went fairly smooth over there. We just had a couple of issues that they worked out, and we've got that final release of retainage. So we're asking the board and recommending final acceptance and release of the retainage on the Farney Elementary project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Next up is superintendent report.
Thanks, Christina. First thing I have is Brad's going to join us. You got to do this quicker, Brad, than last time. Last time you didn't get up here. On the school performance profile, we thought the board would be interested in a little more information on the recent scores that we got from the state, and Maria's going to go over that.
Yeah, I invited Maria to join us as well because we work very closely in tandem on all things learning and monitoring our learning. And I think the board got kind of a high-level overview a couple weeks ago on our school performance profile, but just a little reminder, it used to be called the school report card. And what it does is it just kind of tracks year over year how schools are doing. Primarily, it emphasizes the Iowa assessments, so growth and proficiency are really heavily weighted. The elementary and middle school report card looks a lot different how they calculate points compared to like the high school. So anybody that's kind of a data nerd like we are, feel free to dive in. All those tools are available on the school performance profile. But some things that were really exciting to see, we monitor from year to year how we're doing, and we saw some pretty impressive growth in our school building. So, and again, when you look at the front page, it's not completely obvious because they don't show that metric of growth over time unless you click around and see previous years. But 10 of our 11 physical school buildings saw growth this year, and really pretty impressive growth in all the things that they measure in the school performance profile. 2 of our buildings, Eisenhower and Horace Mann, received commendable recognition. So again, just kind of highlighting some of their work around their school improvement goals, and a lot of our Marzano high reliability schools work, really seeing some impressive gains there. We've learned some of the things that they're doing and are implementing some of those strategies district-wide. So we are seeing gains district-wide from some of the things that they've been piloting over the last couple of years. So kudos to their building leadership team and their principals. Academic gains, you'll see if you look at previous year's report cards, we are at the same level that the state is seeing in terms of growth year over year in English language arts and math. You'll see there is still some discrepancy in our proficiency, compared to the state, but our kids are growing and accelerating their learning, especially in English language arts and math, and that's been a major emphasis. So over time, we'll see that proficiency shrink between us and the state. Our kids are growing and actually growing faster than other kids around the state. So that's exciting. If you look at previous years, there was quite a discrepancy, especially in ELA and math in our growth, and we're catching up. So again, a lot of our curriculum work, a lot of our instructional strategies that we've been working on over the last several years with the Marzano group are really starting to show, especially in the ELA and math. So we're excited about that. Work-based learning, been a newer component to the work to the school performance profile, and that was a big point of emphasis for us, that we don't want kids just to graduate with a diploma. We want them to graduate with a pretty good idea on their pathway and their purpose in life. And so we've provided a lot of opportunities for kids to explore work-based learning. So we are still a little bit short of where the state is at, but we grew from 4% of those experiences to over 30, or right at 30% of our kids. So about a third of our high school graduates are having those experiences. And so we are making significant gains. And we actually found where they pull from is winter state reporting. We have to code our courses correctly to make sure we get credit for those. So a lot of our discrepancies, actually, we just have to fix a couple codes in our winter reporting, and we'll get that cleaned up because it was actually higher than 30% we're finding. And again, feel free to jump in if I miss anything. So one thing that we're really excited about, and that was highlighted in the message to the community, and I know to the board, is our graduation rates, especially at OHS. And this was not from our 2025 class of graduates. This is actually a year old from 2024. We actually expect even more significant gains in graduation rates, but we were well above the state average at OHS in 2024, what you'll see in the profile. And really, really impressive, the work that they've done there. And then when you pair that with, like I said, the work-based learning score, it's exciting to me to see the kids aren't just graduating and having success in our buildings, but they're also graduating with a really strong sense of purpose and having some of those work experiences, which we're always looking for new opportunities. So if there are audience members listening out there and you have a need for some shadowing of students or internships or apprenticeships, we're always looking to place students because, again, we kind of take a no wrong door approach. If a student or a group of students wants to investigate a certain pathway and see if that's a viable career for them, we'd rather them do that now before they go to college or go on to a post-secondary institution and take on a bunch of debt. We'll take that with them and make sure that they have a good experience.
I think just to add, when we think of the work that we've invested in as a school board, as a community over the last several years, to see that 10 of our 11 schools made really significant growth to their whole system, it really speaks to the work that we're doing at that core level or that tier 1 level. I know earlier we talked about interventions. I think some of the really exciting work moving forward is we've been studying what interventions are the most effective, which ones have the most leverage, and how do we target those groups that are not making the growth that we want to see at the rate that we want to see it compared to their peers. And so we're really proud of some of the work we've seen at our schools, but really making sure that our schools are consistent in those intervention systems so that we're meeting the needs of kids with those high leverage strategies that work.
And what Maria's alluding to as well is like we recognize there are still some discrepancies, and we know that all too well. I'm very passionate about making sure we keep academics and our existence as academics and education, and keeping that at the forefront of what we do. So just some things that are really were glaring to us, and making sure we're going to continue to focus on them. As Maria was talking about, some of our subgroups are underperforming compared to peers around the state. And you'll see some of our buildings were targeted for, especially our EL populations and our South Pacific Islander population. So we're going to leverage one of our committees to really study those discrepancies more closely and really figure out how we can connect with those communities and form a stronger connection to serve those populations well, because we're seeing a couple years now where they've been discrepant from their peers, and that's a population that we are proud to serve, and they bring a tremendous cultural richness, especially the South Pacific Islander population, but we need to figure out why they're not making the academic gains like their peers, and we're really going to study that closely.
And one thing that I would mention on that is, for the board, is that part of the reason we are discrepant, and that's a focus of ours, but the reality is there are schools that we don't know what their scores are because they don't have enough for a subgroup.
That's a good point.
And so there aren't a lot of schools that have that subgroup. And so we don't think we're necessarily discrepant from other school districts,
Right.
but they just don't have enough to have a subgroup that it even shows up. So
You have to have 20 kids in a sub-demographic group for that to count as a group. And the
And
interesting
that's at
thing
the
is,
school level,
yes.
20 at the school level.
And that if each of those groups that has an N size of 20 or higher, if any one of those falls below a certain standard, then your whole building status drops. And so it's just something that we don't want to allow to happen to our buildings. And so we're going to be targeted in some of those groups that we really focus on moving forward, because we know as a whole district, we've made so many gains. But sometimes you don't see that with just the words or the status updates.
There's a little bit of a punitive nature, for lack of a better word, to the report card, which changed. That's the other thing, that these report cards continue to change. This is the second year in a row that it's stayed somewhat consistent, but the metrics have changed on it several times over the last several years, as the Every Student Succeeds Act, continues to change, and we adapt to that. But there is a little bit more of a punitive nature to this report card system. So again, as Maria was pointing out, we have some groups that are targeted for underperforming compared to their peers. Well, they drop your entire category because of that. So they don't just go off of straight points. If we went off of just straight points, like in my opinion they should, I can say that, Mike maybe can't, but I will. If they just went off straight points, a lot of our buildings would be an entire rating category higher. So there's a little bit of a punitive nature to that, and we're not exactly sure why. They didn't take a lot of input from schools when they designed these report cards. But we see the results. We're committed to making sure that all of our kids have great experiences in our buildings, and like I mentioned, we're going to have a committee really study some of those targeted subgroups more closely and see what can we do better to serve them. And we're always focused on academics. And again, we don't talk about it enough, in my opinion, but I'm biased. But we're going to make sure we focus on proficiency for all of our students and growth for all of our students, rigor in all of our classes. We have committees at the high school and our secondary level in general, studying how can we make our courses more rigorous and make sure that if we say we're teaching to a level of rigor that the standards require, that we actually are designing our courses that way to hit that high bar. And we're going to continue to focus on work-based learning and post-secondary readiness.
Well, and I would say we've also challenged all of our principals to really think about bigger goals. We're not okay saying 65% of our kids have made proficiency. Like, that number should be far higher. And so we've really challenged our principals to that, and they have taken that and set really what we call like big audacious goals for their buildings and for across the district. So we're excited to see where having that level of rigor in our instructional practices, those high expectations for all students with the supports embedded in the removal of barriers, and where that's going to take our district next.
Brad, you talked a little bit about school to work. Would you want to just update the board on the new internship that we are starting here shortly?
Yeah, like I said, if there's a student that has a desire to explore an avenue, we have Colby Mercer, who's our coordinator for making sure that if we don't have a current partnership with that pathway for a student, she will work to form that pathway. So we were visiting with a hair salon here in town, and we have a student that wants to be a cosmetologist, or at least explore that as a possibility. So we've been working with a local salon here in town to kind of set up some field experience and an eventual internship. And we received a grant here recently from the Legacy Foundation to kind of support that work, just to make sure that all students have the supplies and the tools and the stuff that they need to be successful while they go explore that. And she's Colby's our youth engagement coordinator, and had worked with Mike and Maria and I to establish a new pathway in cosmetology. And we're not going to stop there. We're really working on how can we get a post-secondary connection to this? So we've been looking around the state at other schools that might be out there, even online, to get her not only field experience, but possibly post-secondary credits while she's exploring that pathway. So again, we're committed to finding pathways for every single kid, and there's no wrong door that we won't help them explore. And I'll give a shout out to Colby and her work in partnership with our IJAG program to find those connections and work hard for our kids.
Any questions from the board?
Brad, I just have one. So I know over the past 2 or 3 years or 4 years, we've hired several people, Marshallese and people from other that can speak to multi-languages. Have we ran into really anybody that I say with a 4-year degree or that can teach? Have we had any of those? I know Pastor Wham from my church speaks to some of your teachers from time to time, and he really enjoys that. And I know we've hired several of those, of the Marshallese people and other people just because of the language barrier. But have we ever ran really anybody that can we can hire as a teacher?
No, and if you're out there, we want to hire you, so come find me and we'll figure out how we can get you on our team. We're really trying to grow our own, and so if there are students that are interested in becoming teachers, we have brought in some of our education, like teacher pathway programs, into our high school. We have our own teachers teaching them, and then also associates if they're interested in, or paraeducators or interpreters if they're interested in becoming teachers. We have ways to do that, so we're trying to kind of grow them from within. But no, if there's a teacher out there who is interested and of the Marshallese or South Pacific Islander population, please find me, and we will figure out a way to get you on boarded and part of the team.
Anything else? Not, thanks, Brad and Maria. Appreciate it. A couple other announcements for the board is October 6th at 6 p.m. at a career campus will be the school board debate for the November election. We actually have 5 individuals running for 3 open seats. Also, we'll be having our baseball, softball update, or meeting, I should say. September 30th will be our next meeting. That will be a meeting where the group, and again, Christina's on that and Dave's on that, where we'll walk the grounds by the baseball field, and we'll do that with an architect, and we'll start getting feedback from the committees as far as what they would like to see in those facilities and so forth, and that will be September 30th. The next thing I have is been working with, one of the things our district's really proud of is starting an ag program. And one of the things that we would like to make happen in somewhat the near future is adding to our program a barn out there in our facility. What we're looking at doing, and I'm intrigued by this because I think it will work out really well, it'll be very cost effective, is taking half of our greenhouse, because we don't need that large a greenhouse, it's just huge, and taking half of that and making it into a barn. And everybody that's kind of looked at it thinks that's the way to go, but I'll be coming back with the board, in somewhat near future with an update on that and hopefully a proposal. The next is we're really close to having our old central office completed. again, it will be 4 basically apartments, condominiums that will be 3-bedroom. They're each almost 1,800 square feet. We're in the process right now. The top floor is basically done. We're going to have our realtor stage some of the apartments so people can see that online. So we're hoping in the near future we have a lot of interest and we're able to get it sold. Next thing I have is enrollment. Just an update on that is, I watch enrollment really closely and try to figure out where we're at. And it's always hard this time of year to figure out where you're at with enrollment because there's so many moving parts still because you don't have count day yet. But I knew going in that this would be a tough year to be up just because we had such a large outgoing class. We had the largest that we've ever had. And I should say ever have, but have had probably for the last 2 decades. It was about 435 kids. And we have a really good incoming kindergarten class, but it's still 85 student difference. So we have about 342 incoming 5-year-olds, which is great. That's a good number, but it's trying to make up that difference between the two, I think is going to be tough or a challenge. And so I don't necessarily expect that we're going to be up this year because of that. And then lastly, I think it was the perfect Bulldog weekend. So we won the homecoming game Friday night, which was great. We had the Hall of Fame, and we were really able to honor those individuals that have really done a lot for our school. And then the next day, we had our first event in our new gym, a volleyball invitational, and we won that. So that was a perfect outcome for that. And then that night, and boy, it is a really special event, is a night cross-country meet. Boy, it's, I'm so proud that we do something like that, and because nobody else is doing that. And it's just, we get schools from 4 hours away that want to be in this now. We had 12 teams, varsity teams, want to participate this year. And it's just really exciting to see how much the kids, it's experience that they want to have. And so we're talking about, how can we continue this? Because it's just such a neat thing. So yeah, it was kind of the perfect weekend for Bulldogs. So that's all I have, Christina.
Okay, up next is board member topics. I'll just kind of piggyback on that, Mike. The Athletic Hall of Fame event was very, very well put on. I'm impressed every year. We've gone to that now for 3 or 4 years, and Brandon and his team did a really good job, so that was really nice. Anything else to add? If there's nothing else, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. We're adjourned.